Hello everyone, my name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and today's video is part 2 of the Best Dressed Suites Fashion Edition. Last week I had done a video featuring the Best Dressed Suite from the 2020 mini catalog, and I featured only the makeup portion of the Best Dressed Suite in that video. I will link to it when you're watching on YouTube. Today's video is about the fashion element. My vision for this when I was planning Best Dressed, I knew I wanted to have people. And there are many different people stamp options, which I will go over with you in just a moment. But I just wanted to tell you that there's going to be a major assist from Wonderful Moments today. There's also going to be an assist from Welcome Easter, and that we use Welcome to the World, Little One, and we use Happy Easter from these sentiments. But you can use whatever, whatever sentiments go with the theme that you're trying to capture with your cards. So let's go ahead and talk about this just a little bit. The first thing that I would like to say is, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe by clicking the red button. If you are interested in crafting or card making tutorials, things like that, videos just like this, give this video a like if you like this particular type of video talking about fashion, combining suites and products, things like that. If you're comfortable leaving a comment, I would greatly appreciate it. Same with sharing. If you know somebody who loves fashion or shopping, who loves the Best Dressed Suite, or who's looking for ideas with it, if you'd be comfortable sharing out this video, that would be very helpful as well. We have 4 cards that are 5 by 7, basically the same layout, some slight variations, which is something that I tend to do. And I'm also working in bulk because I'm preparing for a craft show. And then we also have 5 of the 3 by 3 cards that come in the Best Dressed Suite. So these really stick closer to just the elements of the Best Dressed Suite. With these, I did pull in some outside elements to use for these cards. I had already mentioned Wonderful Moments, which feature these people right here. But there are other stamp sets that you can use. So the concept behind this was I wanted to do a different sentiment, a different theme for each card. And I wanted to capture some aspect of what I think of when I think of somebody who is best dressed. For me, when I think of best dressed, I think of Easter, and I think of weddings. I think of baby or bridal showers. Those, at least in my life, are the things that we really step it up for when we're dressing up or going to a special occasion. There are other things as well, but those are pretty much the highlights. So that was something that I wanted to try to capture here today. Okay, I wanted to refer you to the annual catalog. I think that there are 2 stamp sets in particular that lean so much towards best dressed with the themes and everything. Beautiful You is one of them, where if you're thinking about fashion elements, if you're thinking about handbags and shoes and fabulous outfits and tassels and all of the fabulous details that go into somebody who's really taking care with being best dressed, Beautiful You just goes right in with this. So when you're using Dress to Impress, okay, so Be as Bold as Your Lipstick, Hello Fabulous, Kindness is Always in Style, Life is Short, Buy the Shoes, and then of course we have our Mother's Day stamp. If you want to extend the life of your Best Dressed Suite, or if you are trying to capture a different feeling with your card, or say something more specific with your sentiment, in Style, Life Looks Beautiful on You, Happy Birthday Gorgeous, just different things like that. So you can see there are people here, so you could very easily have put any of those images. I do not own this stamp set, but I do own Wonderful Moments. And again, I did use all 3 of these. This can be found on page 138 in the annual catalog. Beautiful You can be found on page 114. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to, one other of the element that I pulled into these cards that didn't come in the Best Dressed Suite are the frame dies, the oval and the rectangle. They also come with embossing folders. I did not use the embossing on these frames today, and I'll show you why. But I did not buy the whole bundle. I didn't buy the stamp set. I only bought the heirloom frames and the embossing folders, which these 2 things come together. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, let me know. This picture is on page 4 of the annual catalog. One brief mention of Celebration. We are now in the 2nd release of Celebration. The original release of Celebration back in January. Items from the original release are now selling out. So just a reminder, any $50 purchase, any $50 qualifying purchase that you make prior to March 31st, 2020 would qualify you for a free product that you can find here in the 2nd pamphlet of the Celebration catalog. Now, Well Dressed is a perfect example of something that would coordinate beautifully with the Best Dressed Suite. If you purchase the Best Dressed Suite, you would qualify for a free item and you could choose Well Dressed, or So Very Vellum Specialty Designer Series paper would also be absolutely gorgeous. This card in particular really would coordinate beautifully with this. So just something to keep in mind if you're looking for ideas, or if you do have to put in an order and it's going to be over $50, just know that we are now in the 2nd release. Here is the 2020 mini catalog, which runs through June of this year. For the Best Dressed Suite, one thing that I do want to bring attention to, this is on pages 54, 55, and 56 of the mini catalog. We're going to be talking about colors, the color key. So they feature 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 colors. These are the colors here with 1 substitution. Since we no longer have the ink pad for Purple Posy, I have substituted Highland Heather. So slightly darker purple, but I promise you it is perfectly coordinated still with this set. So when you're looking here and you see this layer, this cardstock layer, that's still Purple Posy. Purple Posy is the purple element on this striped pattern paper from the designer series paper in Best Dressed. And then you'll see the Highland Heather with the stamping of the dots, and then also Happy Mother's Day, and then the little looks like an ink blot. This is the color palette we're going to be working with today. Just a reminder, I kind of went from the lighter colors to the darker colors, and I just stamped the words in addition to the stamped image to see what the colors looked like. So we have Petal Pink, we have Mint Macaron, we have Daffodil Delight, Highland Heather, Lovely Lipstick, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, and Blackberry Bliss. Plenty of colors and color themes to work with here. We're going to come in the suite. If you purchase the suite, are the tassels. You're also going to get the Mint Macaron ribbon. This is a thinner sheer linen ribbon is what this is called. Okay, so those are options for you there. Some substitutions, other products that I brought into the mix would be the Petal Pink organdy ribbon. It's striped organdy ribbon. Okay, and of course this is just working with the color coordination. The 2019 in color faceted dots, because we have Pretty Peacock and Purple Posy right here. We're using the Pearl Basic Jewels because when I think of Best Dressed, I immediately think of pearls. All right, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention was the Woven Thread Sequin Assortment. I've used this a few times now. You're probably familiar with this. But this has the in colors in it, Purple Posy, and then also Pretty Peacock. But the Rococo Rose is so beautiful as a sequin that I incorporated that in these these projects as well. Here we fussy cut the handbag from the pattern paper. Okay, so there's one, there's the other. I thought it would be fun to do the boy-girl theme. If you've seen my February Paper Pumpkin alternate video, where I did a gender reveal, kind of like a theme card because they had the slice of cake in there, I'll link to that video if you haven't seen it. So here we stuck the stripes. Here we went with a floral pattern. Paper piecing. The original direction of this stamp is facing this way. You will see here it has been reversed. I was experimenting. We're going to be doing some stamping like that today, but what I wanted to show you is paper piecing, where you would literally layer the, you would stamp the image on the pattern paper that you want to use for the outfit. Here we used a floral, and then you would just put it right over the image. Okay, so here you can see the original stamp is, the woman is facing this way. And we stuck with the original stamp for this card. But here I switched the direction. Okay, so the reason to do this is if you have two different stamp sets, which is what this stamp set is actually from A Good Man. And this is from Wonderful Moments. But you can see they are completely in proportion to each other. So you could create a family photo. So when I was originally designing these cards and I was playing around with the concept of them being at the Easter parade, I wanted them all together. Now I ended up scrapping that idea because I felt like I was using too many different products. But you get the concept here. We could definitely do this on another card. So it doesn't really matter in particular that she's looking in another direction, but if you would want them to all be facing the direction, you could do that. And of course you could reverse him as well. So this is just a fun element to play with if you're doing a card for twins. How cute is this? So we have the original image and then we have the reversed image. And same thing, this is also, as an example, A Good Man, because I was writing down all of my notes about the original versus the reverse stamp. This is also stamped lighter. These are all Memento black ink if you would want to color these with your Stampin' blends. But so when you look at these cards and you see that there are two of the same stamp just in different directions, that's why. It just gives you a different look, a different feeling. I thought that that would be something cool to work with today. I'm going to be doing other cards where there's a whole group of people, but for today I thought let's let the fashion be the star, and that's why you only see one person on each card. Okay, so this is just a little snip of paper I have left from the handbags. So what I did was I fussy cut these handbags out, which you will see. And we'll go ahead and we'll start making some cards here. But same for the shoes. We fussy cut some shoes, and we have the shoe paper as well. So again, just depending on the look that you're trying to achieve, there's so much to work with this paper. So if you don't want to do a lot of stamping, if you'd rather work more with the paper, or you want to make the paper really, the designer series paper, the featured element, this is definitely a great way to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut all of the layers that we're going to be using to recreate this card, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start stamping. I will put the card measurements up on the screen. I am not going to be remaking every single one of these cards live. I'm going to do one large card, and then I'm also going to do one of the mini cards for the sake of today's video, but I will have all of the card measurements for you, and I will put those up on the screen. but we're using the trio punch for that. We're using this one in particular because I thought it went beautifully with the floral pattern. And we'd like to get a little fancier with our Easter cards. So one thing, funny thing I wanted to mention about this card, when my mom, I always show my mom my cards, and I always tell her, you know, what I'm working on and what I'm designing. She's always watching the videos and everything like that. Huge supporter. She's a fellow crafter, and she's always advising me. And when she saw this card, she's like, geez, this card is beautiful, but I don't really see anything specifically that's Eastery about it. So I don't know if that's your opinion too. You could certainly swap this out for a different sentiment. But in my head, I had her going to church or an Easter brunch or the Easter parade. Just that classic kind of Hollywood fabulous dress. All right. And then the last two pieces that we would go for would be the inside and the outside of the oval. So one thing that I did want to say about this, I do have one that is slightly embossed. So let me show you. These are back from Christmas. I was working with these for Christmas and I had some leftovers. I have a little oopsie on this one. So we're going to use this one. This one is slightly embossed. I don't know if you can see that. It won't make any difference for the card. And then I just wanted to show you. So whenever you run your, when you have a full piece of white paper and you run it through, it actually gives you two ovals. Gives you the frame and then it gives you the inside. We're going to be using both. So we're going to be using this die cut from the Stampin' Up, the dies from the Best Dressed collection here for the sentiment for this particular card. We're also going to be using a handbag. So in terms of proportion to the stamp size, I thought that this one was best, and I just tucked it right here in her hand. And then for the sake of today's, we could also do purple. Purple would be nice. So I'm just going to put those off to the side for when we go ahead and assemble. You can see I used the reverse side of the floral paper for her hat, for the brim of her hat. And honestly, I think that that's totally fine, but I free-handed the hat. So just to kind of give her that outfit, because I don't know if you remember the song about the Easter bonnet, but that was something that was running through my head. While I'm not going to be stamping every single card for you today, I still have the stamps on the blocks. So I just wanted to tell you the block sizes that I like for these particular stamps. You can use whichever ones you want. I'm using block H for the girl who is going to a party. For the expectant mom, I used the stamping block D. And for the bride, which we turned into an Easter card, we're using block E, clear block E. These all come in the clear block bundle. So if you don't have this, I can't recommend this enough. I wish I would have bought it on day one. Just my personal opinion. For the flowers that I was using to stamp around this card, I stamped the image of the flowers, just kind of like a little watermark look, very light. I don't know if you can tell, but anyway, I stamped it all the way around, and I used this block, which is block A, and I have the floral images on either side of the block. For the kindness is always in style, and the dots, that is on block B. And I used Happy Mother's Day and the Life is Short by the Shoes on block G. Okay, so we're going to use the Happy Easter sentiment from Welcome Easter on this card. We'll go ahead and we'll stamp that first. I'm going to use Lovely Lipstick. One thing I did want to say, well, I guess I don't need it for this one, do I? When you're working with the photopolymer stamps, I like to use the foam matte. This one, the cling stamps, the red rubber clings actually already have foam. just makes it. Here is the Memento Tuxedo black ink. I always have that upside down. Just going to ink this up. My Memento, I need to re-ink it. All right, so if you're interested in the reverse imaging, you need a silicone mat. I just have this tiny little mat here, but they do have a silicone mat available in the Stampin' Up! Catalog, which I do believe is larger. So depending on the size of your stamp that you're doing this with, just keep that in mind. This mat came with a hot glue gun several years ago. Okay, so what we would do here is stamp the image on the silicone mat. Just try to go straight down because you're stamping ink on the silicone, it can slip. So we want to try to get, you know, a good clean impression. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer it to the paper. It doesn't matter if it's not perfectly straight because we would cut it anyway. Okay, and there you have it. There's actually still some impression there, so you could do it a second time if you want a really light color, but that's basically as easy as it is to reverse a stamped image. All right, so the next step, we're gonna pull our scrap paper back into this. Just gonna ink that up. You want to be sure to put the dress where you want your favorite part of the patterned paper. So in this case, I want to be sure that I get some pink and some purple and some green. Okay. We're going to be fussy cutting with the paper snips. When I first do this, I kind of just get the main part of the image. We do not need the flowers, but we want to be careful around her arm because we do want the arm. And then depending on how much of the dress that you want visible, you can see that the lines stop about halfway down. And when you're using the frames, that's totally fine. You can actually just stop your image right there. You don't need to go further down on the paper, but if you would want a long dress, then you would just want to keep that in mind when you're paper piecing and trimming that out. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to cut out her back. I'm keeping the arms, but I'll show you what we're going to do because we're going to give her sleeves. Okay, so we're going to take this down. I'm going to keep this line. You definitely want to be careful here. Okay. If you're not interested in giving her a sleeve, then don't worry about it. But what I'm going to do is we're going to do a 3/4 length sleeve. So we're just going to cut there. Okay, and there you can see you have that sleeve now. So when you go to put it down on the image, you can see that her arm is still exposed, and we'll color that. And of course you can make that whatever flesh tone that you would want. All right, and then we're going to keep, I believe I took the widest line off I'm going to keep it for now just so that I can eyeball it and see. Okay. All right, so that's looking good. We're going to color our girl, our Easter parade best dressed girl. I am not sure what I did with my Petal Pink light, so we're just going to use Petal Pink dark. That's also fine. Okay, so we're going to color up to her neck. Now remember, she has a sleeve, so you don't have to worry about coloring her whole arm. So for like the elbow down is where I'm going to color. For her hair, we're going to use Soft Suede Light. I like to give the hair a little bit more of a detailed look. So I'm actually going to bring in my Stampin' Right markers in Soft Suede. I'm going to be using the journaling tip side to give her some more strands of hair. Now, of course, she's going to be wearing a hat, but I just wanted to show you the technique so that you know for the other cards, you can see here more detail with the hair. That is the base of the soft suede, and then a combination of early espresso and soft suede. In the journaling tip for the hair, just bringing the strands down, giving it more detail. Here I did more of a reddish tone, so we brought in the Merry Merlot. Okay, so just, you know, different options. This is the early espresso. Okay, and so what we would do here is adhere the dress. I've adhered her dress. I'm probably going to have to trim a little bit more once we get the oval on. I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can see this is peeking out here, so we'll just trim that down when we get to that step. We're going to replace the bouquet of flowers with the purse. We're going to add a couple of embellishments here, but first let's go ahead and do her hat. So like I was saying, I free-handed it. So the best way, it's so funny to even say it out loud. The best way that I can describe free-handing this hat, and this is only if you want to do this. You certainly don't have to. You could just put a flower in her hair. You could put a bow in her hair and just forget the hat. But if you are in the mindset of an Easter bonnet or a best dressed person and you want to do the hat, think of a UFO, okay? The shape of a UFO, a flying saucer. You can also kind of think of like a football shape, but basically what I'm going to do is just kind of, here, let me try again. I'm just going to cut into this paper and let me see if I can do this any justice at all. You can also think of like an almond or in the shape of an eye, and then when you have these really rough tips, just soften them a little bit. Okay, so just going to come around and soften that. If you like to do searches, or if this is, you know, if you love Pinterest or Instagram, anything like that, you can see. Okay, so this hat is bigger than this hat. I kind of like it. That's just me though. If you would want to trim it down, you could. I like the bigger hat. That's how you know you're doing it right. You're doing Easter right. Judy Garland's hat in the movie was like as big as a human. And it was fabulous. Okay. So that's a little more subdued, but you get the idea. And then you could either just leave it here and put a flower on it. I'm actually going to give it a top, which is where the UFO part kind of comes in. Now remember, this is actually the same piece of paper, just the, utilizing the two sides. So on this one, I went for more of the leafy portion. I'm going to do that again. And just think of this as like a semicircle, and you'll see how this will end up looking. We put a little bit of the mint macaron ribbon around it. Let me just take a look and see how that looks. This might need to be a little bit longer. Let's just try that one more time. This is the thing about freehanding, but we'll get there. Okay. And that one's too big, but we just want to have enough room for the ribbon. Okay, that's pretty good. So let me grab the ribbon real quick. You don't need hardly any of this for this particular part of it. You can glue this on, or you could use the adhesive dots or something, whichever is your preference. Let me go ahead and put this on. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to decide if I want to pop this up on a dimensional. I think I should, just because the ribbon wraps around the back. I'm going to use a mini dimensional for this one. I have misplaced my adhesive again. We'll see if I can find the big ones, but we would use the mini on that anyway. All right, and then the last thing that we would do, or that I did, was I fussy cut a little purple flower. So let me just make sure I'm recording. Okay. Let's fussy cut this little purple flower. Okay, and now I'm just going to trim her out of the Whisper White. And this is what I mean by just a little bit more involved fussy cutting this time around for this particular card. And again, if your focus is not the designer series paper, if you're really more of a markers girl or a watercolor pencils girl, then of course you could do those options instead. I really wanted to feature this paper because I thought it perfectly captured spring and all of these spring patterns that you see on clothes. I like to cut off in sections because it's easier to work around the image. Okay, so now we are going to be using this stamp from the Dress to Impress stamp set, which is part of the Best Dress suite. We're going to be using Daffodil Delight. And what we're going to do is go around the oval. Now, the one thing that I want to say about this is this lends itself really well to an oval. So I liked that the squiggles kind of were, you know, not quite to the edge. I think it gives it a more artistic look. And we're just going to continue around. It's okay if you have some overlap. I think that yellow is, in this case, Daffodil Delight, is such a fabulous Easter color. Yellow is one of my mom's favorite colors. It's not something that I traditionally wear, but it is so cheerful. And I think I've mentioned a couple of times now, my son, who is 4, absolutely loves bright, bold colors. And I think that I just wanted to show you, this is what it looks like when it's wet, and that's what it looks like when it dries. So it gets a little bit lighter, but nice, beautiful daffodil yellow. So for this card, let me just show you. There's nothing behind her. It's just white because I did the stamping around the oval. But I experimented with that a little bit. So here, using the rectangle, I just did a very clean frame, and we just did dots on the frame instead of the this little art splotch here, the little ink splotch. But we did the more round one, this stamp here, on the inside, this, you know, just a couple of times. I think it was like 3 or 4 times, just so that, you know, there would be something behind the image. And then here, they're stamping on the oval and on the inside, but the color swatch here is stamped on the inside oval, and then the outside oval is the flowers. Very, very light look there. And then here we did both. So here, if you like the look of the frame and then actually the color on the inside as well, you don't want it to just be white, then you could do that. And I used both stamps. I used this for the inside for the mint macaron, and I used this for the petal pink on this one around the edges of the rectangle frame. Now we are going to put our card together. All right, so this is how I center it. Okay, I like that. So let me just get some glue on this layer. And I moved it. Okay, we're going to add in some pearls. You could do the larger here. Just going to press them down. They already have adhesive on them. I also wanted to do pearls on the back of her dress where her buttons are. I'm going to use the small pearls for that. Okay, and there's our card. So some slight differences, some slight variations there, but here we go. So take a look at that. It ended up looking so fabulous. This one is a little flatter. This one has some more dimension to it, but these are definitely really cute wow cards. All right, let's talk about the mini cards, the 3x3 cards. So many different things that you could do. Again, this was a fussy cutting work of love, but they turn out so cute. The one that we're going to be recreating today is the handbag card. I already have some things pre-fussy cut here, so let's just go ahead and grab a couple. We used half of the envelope on this card. Just did some layering. I added in the petal pink ribbon. I added some sequins to the shoe and to the bag. With this one, it was just the 3 different size flowers from the designer series paper, and then 2 of the little leaves, little sets of leaves with the Happy Mother's Day and the pearl. This is also a die from, you know, the Best Dressed dies. I think they're called All Dressed Up or Dressed to Impress maybe. Here we have 4 sets of shoes, and on 2 of the pairs we have the pretty peacock. These are again the faceted dots and the purple posy. Life is short, buy the shoes. And then here, look at that color. That is just stunning. Just a few add-ins. Here we just stamped it right onto the card. We added in some sequins, and again the same exact situation as with this, just fussy cutting the flowers from the designer series paper. So every single one of these cards features elements from the designer series paper. For me, I think that one of the biggest strengths of Stampin' Up! Is how impressive their designer series paper is. Any opportunity that I can get to highlight it, I will, because I just think that you can extract so much from them, whether you're using the whole piece as a background, like here, or whether we're kind of echoing the sentiment and, you know, pulling out the colors, and everything is done basically to enhance what they have already designed and done. The artistry, the patterns, the color choices, so beautiful. So whether you're going for the mini cards, whether you decide to do your own custom size cards, this is what, you know, this is what we have to work with. So just wanted to show these to you for the fashion edition. Okay, so I am wrapping up my videos for the Best Dressed Suite. I've gotten quite a run out of these. I have several different videos. Throughout this video, I have linked to any video that relates to either the dies, the stamps, or both of what I have used from Best Dressed. These are from a previous video, but just to, you know, bring back in the idea of doing the treat bags with or without the straps. So whether you're working with something masculine, feminine, whatever it is, you could take this exact design and put it right on to this box, and you have yourself a treat bag or a treat box, just depending on how you want to do it. So I didn't do any treat bags or boxes in particular for this video, but I did want to pull these back in.